Hey, practice owners, back for another edition of Coming Back Stronger. I'm pretty excited to have our guest on, Bob Affleck from CitiBank Healthcare Practice Finance. And Bob and I have been on a couple of panels recently that are all about finance, which, as we talked earlier, Bob, practice owners who went to dental school and thought, hey, I just want to see patients and all that stuff I'll hand off to an office manager. In the past
Yes.
60 days, they've realized, oh my gosh, this is stuff only I can do. So
Mm.
hoping to dig into that today, provide some answers on the finance part of it. So with that, we'll just jump right in. Bob, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you so much, Steve, for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, and like I said, you're kind of the finance guy, which I think your role has really changed like a lot of ours, has changed in the last 6 weeks or so. So can you kind of
Absolutely.
share where you came from? I know you've been in the
Sure.
healthcare and the dental field a long time. Kind of share with the audience where you
Right.
came from, how you got here, and then maybe a little bit about what's changed in the past just 6 weeks for you.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for asking that question. So obviously right now I do work with CitiBank Healthcare Practice Finance. I actually am their National Business Development Officer. So I go out and train and work with the business development officers for CitiBank and to help them to grow their territories and so on. But for me personally, I actually started over 31 years ago. So I've been in this industry for quite some time. I actually started out in practice finance, and so primarily for me, I consider myself to be more of a practice finance specialist. But my whole passion really is working with the buyers, coming in and purchasing their practices, and that's really what I did from the very beginning. And then throughout my career, I actually jumped into becoming a practice management consultant. The main reason why I did that was pretty much because of the fact that I saw dentists were very excited about owning their practice. But what I also found is that dentists who didn't understand how to run their business or what was going on within their business.
Mhm.
So I was very fortunate to go on board with a practice management group, a nationwide group, taught me a tremendous amount. And then throughout the years, I jumped out of that and became a practice broker, believe it or not.
Ah.
Yeah, so I kind of saw the need in different areas of this industry that I wanted to get into. Primarily practice brokerage just for me was I wanted to come in and try to change the industry. But the one thing I also found is that when buyers, come in and work with practice brokers, they really want to trust that person. So I could see that they were not trusting me anymore. So
Mhm.
I kind of jumped out of that. So bottom line for me, I'll make this quick, but bottom line for me is I consider myself to be an advisor and an educator now in this industry. I love to create solutions for doctors in every stage of their career. Primarily, I like to be a buyer's advocate. So with doctors, helping them to understand the business side, understand what it is they're buying, helping them to negotiate and do the things that they need to do buying a practice, and also a transition specialist for both the buyers and sellers coming in and out of their practice. So that's kind of my background.
Okay. Oh, that covers a lot. That's a lot of ground. And that is, the things we've talked about in the last few weeks and the things that I know you are inundated with are
Yes,
literally things that didn't exist 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago. Uh,
absolutely. Yes,
and I think, as we said at the beginning, at the top, practice owners, of which 86% are dentists, they went to dental
yes,
school. They want to see patients.
yes,
And in the past 6 to 8 weeks, again, on some of the things we've discussed, the anxiety level, the stress level is just,
yes.
for a profession that doesn't like to get it outside of its comfort zone, you couldn't be farther out of a comfort zone. And
Without a doubt.
I know the questions when we do some of our webinars, it's shocking the volume of questions and the
Yes.
detail. And so when you're on and somebody says, okay, any questions, it's amazing. What the audience can't see is we have a little clicker at the bottom that
Yeah,
counts every time there's a question. And
yes.
as soon as Bob opens it up, it just starts, it's like that old internet commercial. It just starts cranking. So,
Yeah,
so if we could, like
definitely.
in this, and obviously this is recorded, but the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if you looked, you really get there's one, two, three, four questions that are asked every time. And
Yes.
so maybe we can touch on those with the assumption that that's what, somebody would be asking, what a practice owner would be asking right now, and kind of help
Absolutely.
clear some things up and, take a little of the anxiety out of the situation.
Well, I'm going to tell you the number one thing I feel like that needs to happen for doctors to take the anxiety out of it, is that they need to stop listening to everyone, because I think it starts to confuse them through this process. And then all of a sudden it becomes a big frenzy within within them. And obviously the biggest concerns they have right now have to really do with their cash flow, how they're going to take care of their team, and primarily how they're going to be able to come back from all of this and when this is over. So in the very beginning, when all this started, it definitely became a huge frenzy, because you had CPAs, financial planners, and all those people out there, sharing their thoughts and how they thought that these programs that have been provided for these doctors should go. And now what's happening is, what they've come out with is that they're having to basically go back and say, you know what, I wasn't right about what I said, and now I've got to retract everything I said. But with that said, without a doubt, it's been very, very ever changing all the time. I mean, it seems like the one thing the banks are doing right now is just trying to keep up with all the changes coming out by the SBA and the government and all of that. The things that everybody is looking out for is, and trying to understand, is the Paycheck Protection Program, and also the EIDL loan, the disaster loan. Those two things that they're trying to figure out which is which, should they apply for both. Those are the two things that are really on their minds right now. In my personal opinion, I would say go for both.
Okay.
So
Okay.
have you heard that as well?
Yes, that's sort of
So,
conventional wisdom. And as we're here today on the 15th of April, the first
yes,
round of funding it seems to be running out on the PPP
yes,
loans, but I think everybody sort of suspects there will be a second round of funding. But
yes,
with the timing, and that's what I want to dig into a little bit here with you.
sure,
Timing of those, which is very critical and can be very critical.
definitely.
Of those, because there are certain 10-day windows and 8-week windows and that sort of thing. But just go ahead and
Yes,
get yourself approved right now. It's probably safe. We don't know the
yes,
day we're coming back, but my gut is 60 days or so we're going to be getting back to where we can manage that payroll, that 8-week window in payroll. So
correct.
so that's what I hear. But most people say just get both. The worst thing you can do is get the loan, just didn't or
And give it
refuse
back.
it and give it
Just,
back. If you get the
right.
EIDL loan, just give it back, and no harm, no foul. But you had it if you needed it. So how would they do that?
Absolutely.
And I
So,
would assume most know, but there are those questions about how can I use the money, how that kind of thing. So
sure, absolutely. Okay, so primarily, for the banks, when it comes to the PPP loan, that is obviously directly through the different lenders out there.
mhm.
So I have to really hand it to all the lenders out there that are providing this PPP loan. They really have stepped up. I know it probably doesn't seem like it, but they've really stepped up and really are taking in thousands and thousands and thousands of applications. And definitely we're starting to see people getting paid
Mhm.
out on their PPP loans. But for those that haven't actually applied yet, absolutely, I would say go ahead and apply now. The one thing that you can be guaranteed with is that when the bank receives your application, they're going to go to the SBA to obtain a number from the SBA that actually guarantees the funds. So if you do it today, they say that the funds may run out by Thursday, but if you
Mhm.
do it today, tomorrow, then you have a good chance of getting the funds that they have right now. And then they can hold on to those funds for you and then start the process of getting you funded. So
Okay. Okay.
does that
Good
all
to
make
know.
sense? I want to
Yeah.
make sure.
Good to
Okay.
know. Absolutely good to know. And I think the great thing about most dental practices is, they're looking for a relatively small amount of money, and
Yes.
which is good. So you can do lots of those as opposed to, I need $23 billion to keep my airline going.
Correct.
Dental
Right.
practices, they're looking for, so if I'm right, it's roughly 2.5 times your average monthly payroll is the PPP,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And so what they're looking for when you're applying, so what you might want to have ready when you're applying for this particular loan, they're looking for the monthly salaries, wages, and possibly bonuses that you've been maybe paying your teams, monthly payments for vacation, family medical leave or sick leave. They want to know that, so they want to have a monthly average of that. Payments for group insurance as well. And then also your monthly state and local taxes assessed on the employee compensation. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to most likely ask for the past 4 quarters of 2019, what they call the 941 form out of your tax returns, or you can also get something from a payroll service that will primarily provide you all of that documentation that you need to prove what the compensation was.
And most of
And then,
those you get every quarter with your 941s, which a lot of docs
correct.
don't even know that exists.
No, that's true.
But and if you get it printed, I do it through an online services with my businesses. So it was easy. I mean, I clicked a button and it created a PDF and I emailed it to the bank. But even if you get it on
Right.
paper, it's a packet you get quarterly that pretty much most of that is already put together for you. So it's not a big,
Correct.
if you haven't filed yet, you're not going to spend 3 days, digging up paperwork.
Yes, exactly. And I think the other thing to know is obviously when they apply for that, they'll probably see something come back from the banks letting them know that they've been approved and or they need to submit any documentation, other documentation. And then from there, then it probably will take maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks for the bank to actually get you your loan documents. So the one thing, obviously, as we all know, is that this particular loan is forgivable, but the only way that we know that it's going to be forgivable right now, it's like that's still up in the air. So we're still trying to get the actual terms of what is forgiveness, but and how that all looks. But from what we know is that as long as you're using 75% of that amount towards payroll, then that works. The other 25% can go towards mortgage interest, rent, and also utilities for the 2 months, right? So that's basically you can use 25% of that amount to go towards those items. So whatever is not used for that, then it would actually turn into a loan. And basically from there, what you're looking at is a loan. The first 6 months of the loan itself, there's no payments. So then after that, then it would be 1% for the rate, and then you'll pay it off within about 18 months.
Okay. So it's a very it's an easy loan.
Very easy.
Better than you're going to get at at any bank. So
Yeah, exactly.
so here's the thing that is I'd like to get your thoughts on this.
Sure.
Timing. And this is the thing that a lot of practice owners they're not involved in, so they don't know. So when you say cash flow, that is a thing that usually goes over their head, and but in a sense, it's like a checkbook. So in the rhythm of a dental practice, you've got generally every 2 weeks, a big mountain, and then kind of average, and then a mountain, and that mountain is payroll. So you're going to see that in a dip and that. And then if you've done things well, I know for practices that have a lot of membership plans, which became really popular a couple months ago, your cash flow is pretty stable.
Yes.
Your patients are paying you a monthly fee, and it just, hits a credit card, and it's $35 to $40, and 1,000 patients. That's pretty good steady cash.
Yeah,
so you've got income up here, and then you've got dips that stay below it, and, cash flow is easy. And even if they go above it, you're still smoothed out by the end of the month. So
yeah,
when you're timing this, my understanding is once you get approved and the bank says, okay, you're going to get this loan, you have 10 days to take the money.
you have 10 days to actually start paying your payroll after you receive the money.
Okay.
Is what it, yeah, from what we understand. So, and so I know a lot of doctors are saying, well, I'm closed, and I cannot, really bring people back. The spirit of the whole thing was to bring people off of unemployment and to primarily get people back to work. Obviously, doctors, that's a whole different story. Or dentists, that's a whole different story, right? So I know that a lot of dentists are very concerned about, when they're actually opening and, do they have to start paying their team right now? And I would say, unfortunately, yes, you will have to start paying them, right?
But that's not everybody.
No, that's not everybody.
And
no.
I think that's what I'd like to dig into a little bit, if that, to help some practice owners figure that out, maybe a strategy for that is the things they can be doing right now is figuring out what it looks like, whatever day we open. So we're in the middle of April, might be, I think my personal opinion is a lot of businesses will be able and start opening first week of May. We don't know what they are, because there are a lot of businesses it just doesn't make sense for them to be closed.
Correct.
We talked earlier about golf. Indiana golf courses are an essential business, so they're open, although you shouldn't leave the house. In a lot of states, that kind of thing is not. So there are some of those that I think somebody will make a determination, say, listen, that's, there's no reason for them to be closed. If they choose to open. Right. Restaurants, I don't know. And somebody said this to me, interestingly, years ago, said there are very few professions where you touch your customer. And dentistry happens to be one, and hair salon, that kind of thing. Yes. So you're touching your customer. And in the past, in a hair salon, nobody wore any kind of infection control barrier. We just, you cut hair. So I don't know where they fall on the list, but they're probably end of May or June if we roll out openings. Dentistry, I mean, what are your thoughts on, dentistry's at the tail end of the list, I think. So
I think you're right. Yeah, for sure. I've heard some people say the middle of May, but I've also heard June. In some other states, they're like saying like later on in the year, which that one I don't know about, but I can't wrap my head around that one.
So if that's the case and we're at the tail end, the second number to keep in mind is the 8-week window. So once you get your money, say you pushed it off for 10 days, and that gets us right now the end of April. Right. And so you can start paying, you get your money, you get funded, you can start paying some payroll.
Yes.
You can bring back, for example, an office manager.
Correct.
And you can start maybe working on your AR. You can start doing those things like, you're going to, I had a really great interview about practice aesthetics earlier this week. And the woman who did it said, things that you haven't noticed for the past 10 years, like the really cute stuffed animal collection, in the operatory, or the papers that have been taped up on the cabinetry in the operatory that, we covered them up. We put a poster sticky over it, with kind of up-to-date information for patients. All the paper that's sitting around on the cabinetry to promote whatever it might be. Right. All of that stuff, you're going to have to decide what you leave out and what you don't. So that's part of what you can bring your staff back for. You're not going to, you don't necessarily need to bring staff back to see patients, but you need to start putting somebody on the payroll. Maybe that's a way to do it. Does that sound plausible?
Personally, I absolutely agree. I agree with that for sure. I definitely have talked to a lot of different doctors out there, and some of the doctors that I talked to have come up with some amazing plans of what they're going to do to bring their teams back to the practice. And one of the ones that I thought was really smart was, they're going to have them go through all of the patients and the ones that actually had procedures that needed to be completed, that they were going to start contacting them and
Okay.
just, you touch base with them to see how they're doing and see how that, whatever is going on in their mouth is how that's doing, just to really check in with them and say, once we're open, we need to really focus on, bringing you back to get that done. So I think it's a really good idea, that if they're going to bring these people back and they have nothing else to do, why not personally contact the patients to see how they're doing? And, I think that's a really good way to do that. The other thing that, that I've been so impressed with is, some of these groups, these consulting groups out there. Obviously, we work very closely with Next Level, and I work with other, groups as well. But primarily, I think that they've come up with an amazing program called Blueprint for Recovery. And that particular program is, I've actually been able and fortunate to be able to sit in on some of those meetings. And it's just so inspiring to actually see what the process that they're doing. But really what they're telling the doctors right now is, you need to focus on how you're going to come back in, to your practice, and how you're going to communicate with your patients. And primarily, it's all about, I think, going even and readdressing your websites right now as well, to basically come back and say, hey, this is what we now stand for. We stand for health, and we stand for safety for our patients. And we just want you to know that, you will be safe coming back to our practice. And by putting that on their websites.
And those are things you can be doing now.
Correct.
One, but also paying staff to do.
Correct.
Versus, we flip a switch and we open the gates, it's June 1st, and suddenly, we've got patients, things that we're not going to be able to get to. So we have, what somebody had said this, gift of time. So
Correct.
Gift of time right now that we can do things where 3 months from now, I guarantee you we're going to be back to, we're so busy we can't get to that. We can't clean up patient records. We can't clean up those things. So if you're going to pay somebody, don't pull them off of unemployment just to run payroll. The expectation is let's use this time to get our practice ready for people coming back the way we think they're going to come. And again, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know a few things. One is teledentistry will be have a prominent role. And
absolutely.
Of course, you can't prep a crown via teledentistry, but there's a lot you can do. So one of my favorite phrases is, it's a Chinese proverb that says a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So right now, figure out what teledentistry even is. And, versus saying, it's not going to work. And, I promise you, this kind of distancing will become the future. This is for a lot of things. And not because of the virus, but because once you do it, it works so much better. I did my first telemed visit, Bob, and it was shocking. I got a call from my physician, and I figured, and I had this was 2 weeks ago, and I thought they're going to postpone my appointment. And she said, do you mind doing this over the internet? And I said, sure.
Wow.
She said, so they sent me a text. I clicked it and installed a little app, like I can't even remember the name of it. And once I had that, then it said tap here, and boom, there was the doc. And my visit was it was nothing more than something I had done. I might have done it the last 15 years. Just for an annual medicine renewal. Which I guess the rules say you've got to see your patient once a year to say, okay, renew it. And he asked me like 4 questions and said, okay, all done. And then they said, by the way, would you like us just to send your prescription your first month, by mail? And I said, sure. And they clicked a button and said, okay. It showed up 48 hours later.
Oh my gosh.
That's great. Neat thing was, on his side, I said, hey doc, I said, have you done these, many of these? He goes, I've been doing it for 1 day. He said, I decided yesterday I'm gonna dedicate at least 1 day, maybe 2 in my practice to these kind of visits. He said, otherwise I would throw you in the waiting room with everybody else. I'm backed up. You and I have a 5-minute interaction, but you're mad because you've been out there for an hour.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
and he said, I've seen like 25 patients in this morning where, I'd normally see half a dozen. And
Wow.
I said, well, let me tell you about it from my end. From my end, I would have said, oh crap, I got an appointment again.
Right.
Got in the car, driven over there, paid to park, gone in, sat there for an hour, talked to him for 5 minutes, and done
Yeah.
just the opposite. I said, you saved me 2.5 to 3 hours this morning. So
Unbelievable.
had nothing to do with the virus, no
Right.
social
Right.
distancing.
Exactly.
It's something that he never would have done. He said their practice has been talking about it for years. He said in telemed, he said, I fought
Yeah.
it every time because I didn't want to learn anything. He goes, in 48 hours, forget it. I love it. So
Yeah.
it just works for certain things. Now in dentistry, it's not going to work for, like I said, you can't prep a crown. But I
Right.
think over a 2-year, 3-year period, we're going to find places that it works very well in our practice. And we're going to say, I
Absolutely.
can see more patients, bill just as much, and inconvenience a whole lot fewer people. So I don't know what it is, but I know that's a road that we're going. There's a first step already been made. We're going down that road.
Absolutely. I
So
agree.
those are things that you can be doing right now with your whoever's in your practice. Reach out and
Yes.
say, how would we do teledentistry? Where can we integrate it? Mary Jane, you're the office manager. Figure out things that we can do with that
Right.
while you're back on payroll and the clock's ticking.
Yes.
And so 8 weeks from now, when we start seeing regular patients, we've used that money wisely and, we get it forgiven instead of having to now turn it into a loan. Because I think the idea is to get it forgiven. So,
No, absolutely. Yes. That definitely is the idea. I know for sure. So
so the other half of that, Bob, is what I'm hearing is, and you tell me how this sounds. So
sure.
a month or two in, you're not going to see a switch flipped and we're seeing patients.
Right.
It comes in, but you've got about a 2-month, 3-month gap of patients
Yes.
that you need to see.
Right.
You
Right.
don't need to just push them off and say, skip it, we'll see you in October.
Right.
That's 3 months of revenue that you desperately need into your cash flow.
Correct.
So what I hear a doc saying, we're normally off Fridays. We're loading up Fridays. We're going to
Yep.
work till 7 at night. We're going to, when
Yes.
we can open the gates, we're going to reach out to the patients and we're going to say, listen, you don't need to skip your hygiene. So let's get you in the schedule, which
Right.
is needed cash flow. But it
Mhm.
also, the curve now goes the opposite way from kind of a lot of free time to a lot of extra time. But the point of that gets you to your 75% threshold 8 weeks from now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
overshoot it by a little bit to get back on track about 10 or 12 weeks out. Is that a
Right.
strategy? Does that make sense? Does that fit with the rules that you know?
No, absolutely. And that's exactly why, they're actually starting kind of now to start focusing on those patients to get them back into the practice. The patients that need the work done now. So, and it definitely will help to quickly increase and improve their cash flow immediately.
Well, and
So,
that's what helps pay so if you're going to be paying, what you don't want to do is pay this payroll out because you have it.
right.
And patients trickle back. So you're seeing 50% of patients 3 months from now,
Right.
and you've gotten off scholarship, so to speak. Now
Yes.
you're back on your own checkbook. You want to
Yep.
make sure you manage that timing very, very carefully.
Correct. Correct. And I would also say another good thing to start, maybe looking at right now is their overall debt within the practice that they have. Definitely the lenders out there are still lending to practices. I think what they're doing is kind of holding off to fund until they actually open up their doors. But, you can always refinance your current debt. The rates right now are great for doctors. And just consolidate all of that. You can also obtain working capital loans or equity cash out loans, where you can have that kind of as a safety net if you need it. So that's
My
another.
assumption is banks, maybe you can speak to this for CitiBank. My
Yes.
assumption is like CitiBank Healthcare Practice Finance Group, or that element of it, you expect everybody to come back to work. You expect that
Oh,
practice.
yeah.
So it's different than it would be if you were going for a practice loan 2 months ago.
Right.
The rules have changed a little bit, but fundamentally you expect them to be back.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. We're definitely looking at that. Obviously, I think it is always a credit officer's nightmare to have this go on and
Mhm.
always wonder, how the practice is going to come back. And will it be the same as it was before? And so that definitely can be, play a role in this whole thing moving forward. But I think personally, I kind of think, once we start getting back to more of a norm, I think doctors really just need to know they're going to be okay right now. And that things are going to be able to, they're going to be able to come out of it. I mean, I definitely have gone through this, back in 2008 and 9, when that all went down. But the doctors that survived and really came out strong were the ones that didn't put their head in the sand and basically did nothing. And they were just like looking at the world and blaming the world for their problems when you have the ones that were really proactive and doing the things that they could do to actually make a difference and come out on top. So, there's always a difference of that. So I would say, I actually held a program called Look at Yourself in the Mirror. And you always kind of look and see who the actual problem is.
Right, right. Well, so this could also create some opportunities. I think you just touched on something really interesting there. If I'm a doc who is, I'm strong, I have plenty of cash reserves. I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I'm okay. I can handle a 3-month downturn and we're fine. But my buddy up the street can't.
Right.
And he or she is just struggling.
Yes.
So suddenly we decide we're going to merge and start our own little group.
Yes.
That's a thing that right now your company, I mean, I guess what I'm thinking is, you've had plain vanilla deals for year after year after year after year, and you could do them in the dark. Doc wants to sell, Doc wants to buy, you put them together. CitiBank does the math on a form and says, okay, check, 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 approved. Well, now you have kind of some neat opportunities where, a colleague who's struggling that just says, man, I don't even know I just want to do the dentistry. I didn't sign up for this crap. And you say, I'm okay. We are doing pretty well. Let's form a group. So that is something that your CitiBank is still writing deals that might be a little more interesting than they used to be.
Well, no, absolutely. And I definitely see a lot of opportunity, even for the doctors that are looking to grow their practice for the future, to start reaching out to those doctors that are maybe more of a retirement age, and to actually talk to them and see maybe if they do want to merge their practice, or maybe allow them to buy the practice and then merge it into theirs, and bring the doctor with them, allowing the doctor to continue to work. So I think there is definitely a lot of that. And during this time, believe it or not, I've had doctors call me and say, this is what I want to do. And they are out there searching for these practices. So
I think you're going to, so not to get off topic, but sort of out in left field, but one of my personal observations or beliefs that, comes out after this, is that a lot of dentists, again, 86% of whom right now own their practice, which is there's no other industry like that. They're gonna, because there hasn't been, Bob, you think about it. If you graduated from dental school up until the last half a dozen or 10 years, it was just assumed you're going to be a business person. You're going to start your own business. You're going to have employees and taxes and, overhead and lease negotiations, all this junk that you never learned how to do, but you'll stumble your way through it. And then insurance comes along, the margins get tighter and tighter and tighter. And now it's critical that you stay on top of those. And so suddenly you've got a bunch of dental school graduates who are dentists saying, I'm not doing this again. I'm thrilled with the dentistry, but we got to find a way to do this better. And there's always that one that says, I kind of like the business side. I know it. So the move to groups is smoother, I guess, what I'm saying. The supply and the demand, I think, will meet up. And there are a great percentage of practice owners right now who will see an opportunity to be a part of something, but not be an owner anymore. Right now they could be home, not worrying about a thing, instead of doing research on PPP loans and trying to track down 941s. That's,
Yes.
well, I'm part of a practice. You watch, I mean, the admin staff does all that.
Oh yeah,
But
exactly.
the docs are waiting until they can go back and see patients. So
Right.
there are a lot of neat models or neat combinations that could come out of this. That,
No,
you know,
I agree. Yeah.
again, the money is there, is what you're saying.
The money is absolutely there.
Okay.
You know, I don't think any of us think that, you know, things are going to really change a lot. I think what we're looking at is how long is it going to take them to get back to where they were before, or
Okay.
to see what the norm is for them moving forward. So, you know, primarily for us, it's like we're definitely in it to, you know, support the doctors and to help them to grow. So
Okay.
that's what it's all about for us.
Well, let's ask this kind of near the end. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, I know you're most of California, and you're a California guy. But if a practice owner is listening to this and says, you know, that's a pretty neat idea, even from the buying or selling, whichever side of it, you know, it's time for me to finish being a practice owner, or
Yes.
it's time for me to be a bigger practice owner.
Right.
How would they get in touch with you?
You know what? They're more than welcome to call me or text me on my phone. I'll be more. Would you like me to give you that information now?
Please. Yes.
Okay.
Nice and slow, so I can write it down.
Okay, I'll give it to you nice and slow. So my cell phone number is 949
Okay.
939 4550.
Okay. 949-939-4550.
Correct.
And
So
what's your
a
email?
good way to get a hold of me is to text me and just say, hey, Bob, you know what, I'd like to, you know, talk to you about whatever they'd like to talk about. I'll let them know if I'm busy at the time or when I can call them back.
Awesome.
So I'll be more than happy to. I love helping, and I can help doctors nationwide. So really, if they have questions about any of this, I'll be more than happy to walk them through, not just about the PPP loans, but about every stage of their career. If they're looking, you know, for some ideas of what to do or how to navigate through that, I'll be more than happy to help them.
Fantastic. And I think there are a lot that will come out of this and say, you know, this whole practice owner part, I didn't sign up for, you know, be handed off. And it doesn't mean getting out of dentistry, and it doesn't mean selling out, and it doesn't mean, you know, you've got to treat your patients terrible. And it doesn't mean any of those things.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
I think we'll see more of that. I think we'll see more 4-doc, 6-doc groups emerge than we have, because there's one of them who just likes handling this, and 5 that just want to see patients.
I totally agree. And I think that you'll even see that coming from the millennials coming out of school. You know, they're all about, you know, working because they want to, not because they have to. And so they really want to go into group practice. They want to do all those things. So, but they also see themselves as the owners of their practice.
Which, you know, 5-doc group or 6-doc group or 10-doc group, it's still pretty cozy.
Exactly.
And still pretty valuable, and you still have a say, but somebody else takes all this junk that, you know, got dumped on your head about 6 weeks ago that, you know, again, if you're for dentists, you could not be farther out of their comfort zone than
correct.
Yes. Awesome. Well, Bob, I appreciate any parting thoughts or any words of wisdom you can share with listeners and viewers.
So, you know what, I do have one word of wisdom, and I've used this on a lot of our webinars, but you know, the one thing that really got me was when I was listening to an actual podcast myself, and basically they said the things that we get distracted by are never as important as the things we get distracted from. And, you know, primarily right now, I think we're getting so distracted by all the things that are going on in the outside world, but we're forgetting to really focus on what's important, which is ourselves and our families, and also building our business and really understanding what we can do to come back even stronger. You know, the outside world will take care of itself, but you need to take care of your world within it. So that would be my parting thoughts.
Awesome. That is spot on. You know, you get, if you're not taken care of, my wife calls it the oxygen mask theory. You know, you're on a plane and they tell you when it drops, take care of you, because if you don't, you're no good to anybody else. So
That's right.
take care of you. So awesome.
Yep.
Well, good.
Yep.
Well, Bob, I appreciate you being on. A lot of very valuable content that I think a lot of docs don't hear elsewhere. The timing is really key right now, but really that's temporary. I mean, that is getting through this time period. And I think a focus on coming back, not just clicking a switch and coming back,
Right.
not going to happen.
Correct.
You're going to come back different, whether you like it or not. So you might as well
Yes.
come back stronger rather than weaker or struggling.
Absolutely. Yes. I just want to say thank you again. This has been such a pleasure to be on this program with you today. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. And you're really sort of the guy. I know you're humble about that, but you have become sort of the finance-wise, the go-to guy. And, like I said, it's very interesting on these webinars we do where that little ticker down at the bottom, man,
Yes.
when you say, any questions for Bob? And it just starts spinning around and boom, 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 and I don't even know, we got time for like 3 questions and all of a sudden it's 40, 57, 68, 92. And, so the need is out there. So I really appreciate you coming on and helping with this.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Until next time, I'm Steve Parker, the Profitable Dentist Magazine, and docs, hang in there. This is a temporary situation. We will get through it. And if you, as Bob said, focus on the things that are important, you'll be coming back stronger. So with that, thanks for joining in.
Perfect. All right. Thanks so much, Steve.
Bye-bye.
This has been great. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.